I'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this video, United We Stand coin. United we stand, divided we fall, and we've got to show support for that. This is a collector's coin you guys can get for free at unitedwestandcoin.com. On the front, it's got the Don't Tread on Me snake with that printed on the front, and on the back, a Liberty Bell with 1776 dated on it. You guys can get it at, once again, unitedwestandcoin.com. Muchachos y muchachas, welcome back, friends. This is episode 2 of our Chris Cornell series. And in this series, we're really just questioning all of the logistics, timelines, and details that were reported about his, passing. And I think that this is necessary for us to really, dispel the conspiracy theories that may have derailed us away from some critical details that we should be focused on, or we should have been focused on this entire time. And with that being said, there is a first video, the episode 1. I'm going to link it up here. It's very important that you watch that one first before this one. You want to understand this in its whole composition of how these details kind of transcend. So I would heavily advise you to go watch that video first. And of course, as I didn't expect, kind of expected, whatever, it did get flagged with discretionary notices. So it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to watch this? It's fine. Go ahead and watch it. But yes, that video is now suppressed, but I'm going to keep going with the series, which is why we're doing this in segments. So with that being said, in this episode, we're really going through some of the timelines of that night, what was reported by different witness accounts and by the official narrative. I want to take a deep dive into the timeline and what other people said, including the Pretty Reckless front vocalist, Taylor Momsen. I think these are key details that we really need to consider. So with that being said, this is episode 2, the timeline and logistics. Chris Cornell put out a tweet for that night's performance earlier that had a bit of some useful info. Hashtag Detroit finally back to Rock City. Soundgarden, hashtag no more bullshit. So the details to note from this particular photo he paired with the tweet is, firstly, it states that the show was at 8 p.m., but also that the Pretty Reckless was opening for them. In a tweet put out by the Soundgarden account, it stated that the band were to walk on stage at 8 p.m. The doors opened at 7 o'clock p.m. The Pretty Reckless start playing from the starting second. I would imagine, as most opening bands do. So back to the review article stating that they were a few minutes late walking on stage. We can place performance start timing at approximately 8:15 to 8:45. I mean, I'm a seasoned concert goer. That seems most probable to me, as many headliner bands usually are late. Revisiting the police investigation, Martin Kirsten, bodyguard to Chris Cornell, is stated that they got escorted from what I'm assuming to be the venue, Fox Theater, to the hotel at around 11 o'clock p.m.
We completed a show at the Fox Theater at approximately 11 p.m. We had a police escort back to the hotel. Chris signed autographs, then we came up to the room. I gave him his 2 sleeping pills and went back to my room.
Here is where I'm going to throw a monkey wrench in everything. The police report is not as detailed as you can see. They put very concisely that Chris and his bodyguard were escorted from Fox Theater to their MGM hotel. DailyMail.com had an interesting witness account used as their source, and it states that Chris Cornell told fans, "I love you," as he was escorted from the front of the Motor City's Fox Theater from a door near the main box office. In another interview, Taylor Momsen, the lead vocalist to the Pretty Reckless, who opened that night, talked to Matt Pinfield on his show New and Approved, where she gave some account of the last moment she had with Chris Cornell after the concert. And she recounts that Chris Cornell emerged out of a different part of the building.
Now the day when tell me about the experience of when you found out that we lost Chris.
Man, the devastating is an understatement. I mean, we were there that night in Detroit. We played. That was the last night of that tour, of the leg of that tour. We played. They played. I stayed outside. We were where all the buses were parked. We were all in the back parking lot. I was waiting. I kind of had come to realize what Chris's schedule was, or not schedule, but his kind of routine. And he tended to leave right after the show. So I was kind of waiting by the back door, knowing that it was the last night of tour, and I wanted to thank him for everything and, say whatever I was going to say. And I did. I caught him as he was walking out, and, we had a nice little discussion. I gave him a big hug. Let's do it again sometime, kind of, and then we continued on with the night, hanging in the back parking lot with Matt and Kim and Ben and, the rest of our band. And again, 𝘿𝐸𝐻 was there. And it was just this big kind of celebration that we couldn't believe that we were there, and that, in one way sad that, the tour was over, but, elated that we were a part of it. Like, just is, very, very great. And so, then bus call happens, and we rolled out and on to the next city. And the next morning I woke up to the news of just crushing. I was in disbelief, I guess is the right word. I was convinced that everyone was lying to me.
You actually met Chris for the first time, because you were on tour with Soundgarden, opening for Soundgarden the night Chris died. But I'm pretty sure you told me a story that he actually, the first time you met him was the night that he later took his life, right? That you were standing, you told me some story. He came by you as he was going off stage or something. Refresh my memory. Tell me if I'm right, because I remember you telling me something like that.
Not the first time I'd met him, but it was, yeah, but I mean, I had spoken to him a few times on that tour. We'd had a couple nice conversations. Just wanted to say thanks and goodbye. And it was a brief, sweet moment. And we stayed in the parking lot hanging out after, he left, and we were hanging out and waiting for the buses to leave, and went to bed that night. And the next morning woke up to the most tragic news ever. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like I didn't know I'd never felt anything like that before.
In the police report, Martin Kirsten mentions that they headed back around 11 p.m., which is not too much of a strain. However, it was the next part where he stated that the resolve with the TV and the IT work was around 11:34 p.m. So taking this back to Taylor's experience and account, this just, again, doesn't make sense that everything would be resolved by 11:34 p.m. when he exited the theater at 11:25 p.m. and not only to exit, but to also bid farewell to his opener, as well as give time to fans to give autographs as well as selfies. So 2 key details mentioned so far. Taylor waited by the back door and in the parking lot. This, I'm not sure which direction of the theater this was referenced, but if we take a look at the Google Street Capture, we can see that there is a parking lot to the side of the theater. Now, I'm going based off of pure speculation here, but this seems to be the most logical parking lot for performers to exit coming out of Fox Theater. This is an incredible development. In perspective, Taylor accounts that she, her band, Chris Cornell, as well as the rest of Soundgarden, hung out for a time after the concert in the parking lot. Why didn't the Detroit Police Department take Taylor Momsen's witness statement in any investigation? Taking this in comparison with the account in the Daily Mail article, I'm not sure how each accounting of Chris's whereabouts after the concert can coexist or commingle with all the official police timeline. Chris hanging out with Soundgarden and the Pretty Reckless in the parking lot, alongside with him saying goodbye to fans and signing autographs and taking selfie photos. This, I would imagine, that would account a lot more time, I would imagine, in my opinion, and then leaving at 11:25 p.m., as well as having all the said IT work done at 11:34 p.m., as stated on the police report.
What can you tell me about the incident that resulted in the death of Chris Cornell?
Christopher is the lead singer of Soundgarden. We completed a show at the Fox Theatre at approximately 11 p.m. We had a police escort back to the hotel. Chris signed autographs, then we came up to the room. I gave him his 2 sleeping pills and went back to my room.
This next part reaffirms my hypothesis that the timeline had to have been crammed and not aligned with the police report. A fan revealed to Alternative Nation that the last album Chris Cornell signed was minutes before his death. In this article, it mentions user 𝘵𝘪𝘍𝘍𝘪𝘐 has shared a photo of a Soundgarden King Animal vinyl record that Chris Cornell signed minutes before committing at the Detroit MGM Grand Hotel, painting by Graham Edward Art, and an album signed on the night he took his own life. 𝘵𝘪𝘍𝘍𝘍 wrote on Instagram, Cornell signed autographs just before entering the hotel. Last month, a fan reportedly discussed meeting Chris Cornell and having him sign his Soundgarden ticket just before he entered the MGM Hotel in Detroit in a message on eBay. I've seen Chris in concert more than a dozen times. This time was no different. He signed the ticket 45 minutes before he died at the front door of the MGM. I met him 6 other times. He was quiet and thanked the fans, same as he always did. All the media saying something was different is complete nonsense. I was shocked. He wrote on his page, this ticket was signed at his hotel immediately following the concert, and this happened only about an hour before he passed away. He signed a couple vinyl records and a CD cover for me and my ticket stub. Please see the date of the ticket stub. This item was signed in permanent black Sharpie. He had a police escort after the show, was traveling with private security, and there was hotel security. Now, what we have here is the actual eBay listing archived, and you'll see right in front of you is the autographed ticket that the fan had signed by Chris Cornell. So do want to scroll down to the details of this listing, and most of which at the top half is mirrored in that article we just went through, the details of how he signed it, what he signed. But it's this little piece of information down here that I find very valuable. It states, I do not have a photo proof of Chris signing this item or other autographs from that date. This was signed as he was entering his hotel. He had a police escort after the show, was traveling with private security, and there was hotel security. The situation didn't really permit photos. Again, reminding you of this really important piece from the Daily Mail. It states, Chris told fans, I love you, as he was escorted from the front of the Motor City's Fox Theater from a door near the main office. He wished them luck, posed for selfie photographs, and told some that he would see them in Columbus, Ohio, where his band were due to perform Friday night. Now, given with this new bit of information, it might be a small detail that could be new, but this should make us curious. Why wasn't this probed by the police investigation? Back to the police report. Martin Kirsten stated that he gave Chris 2 Ativan pills, an anti-anxiety medication, then went back to his room. When in his room, Chris called Martin and asked him to fix the TV, and it stated that it was an Apple TV. So then Martin arranged for the hotel to bring a remote to the room and could access the hotel's network. Whilst this was happening, Chris was allegedly talking to his wife on the phone while the technical problems were being resolved. In the finalized report, it states that the issue was ultimately resolved at 11:34 p.m. Back to the police interview account of Martin 𝘏𝘏𝘮𝘢, the bodyguard to Chris Cornell. It stated that they got escorted from what I'm assuming to be the venue to the hotel. So they are now at the hotel. The first thing that I want to point out is that the report mentions an Apple TV. The clarification that we need is whether this was an Apple TV brought in by Chris. Was it a laptop? The report alludes that the hotel would have to bring in a remote to fix this Apple TV technical issue. And side note, wouldn't it be the hotel reception staff bringing this remote by? Hotel IT? I don't understand what hotels have IT departments that work around 11:30 at night. And I'm being critical about what is concretely written, but we have to be. I digress. Back to it. A remote belongs to a TV. That's it. Simple. So now to corroborate the Apple TV brand. Okay, so what I'm going to do is actually call MGM Detroit and see what sort of amenities they have in the room if I were to book a suite, and if Apple TV or a variety of viewing shows would be one of those amenities. So let's go ahead and call.
MGM Grand Detroit, this is speaking. How can I help you?
Hi there. Yes, I'll be staying in Detroit, possibly in March, but I will have to probably stay in the hotel room for a long period of time. I'm curious about your amenities. Do you guys have like entertainment, like movies or Apple TV or anything like that within a suite or something if I were to book?
So we do not have Apple TV or anything of that nature. You do have the option to order movies by way of the television. But yeah, as far as Apple TV, unfortunately, we do not. The TVs aren't smart TVs, so you wouldn't be able to hook up anything such as like Alexa or different things of that nature.
Okay, but you do have movies to rent or something like that.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, well, I'm exploring my options right now. I just wanted to know what sort of entertainment amenities I would have. So I will call back. Thank you so much for your help.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you. So, no Apple TVs confirmed by MGM Detroit themselves. I reached out to them back in 2021 to no avail. This brings up another question. Did the MGM hotel staff ever confirm this detail? Did the inquisition by law enforcement officers stop there? And if so, why? That's a simple clarification, if not with many, that could have been easily assessed, and yet all we have are vague details. 12:30 a.m. For a full hour, the police interview records that Martin 𝘏𝘏𝘮𝘢, the bodyguard, was back in his room watching TV when Chris Cornell's wife, Vicky, allegedly calls Martin in desperation. Whilst at this time, we don't know what happened to the previous request. Did that remote ever arrive to Chris Cornell's room? Did Martin 𝘏𝘏𝘮𝘢 receive the remote? Did a particular hotel staffer deliver it? If so, did they record their name? This is what I mean. The police interview detail explains.
I was in my room and was watching television when I received a phone call from his wife, Vicky. She sounded angry because he wasn't responding to his phone. She told me to go to the room and check on Chris.
I'm wondering what exactly was communicated to MGM reception. I would imagine something as concerning as a mention of one's well-being would be their utmost concern of any of their guests. I would imagine that any plea for help to a security position would obligate them to not only act ASAP, but also source emergency personnel like 911 immediately. After allegedly being rejected by the hotel staff, Martin then phones Vicky to report back these details. He then states that he received instruction from Vicky to kick the door down. Chris woke her up by remotely turning their home lights on and off using their smart home system on his phone. Alarmed, Vicky called and he was on a rant, she says. I said, "You need to tell me what you took." And he just got mean. That wasn't my Chris. She called his bodyguard, Martin Kirsten, who told her the singer was taking double his Ativan dose. In a panic, she called the singer back, and when he didn't pick up, she sent Kirsten to his hotel room after breaking down 2 locked doors. The bodyguard found him slumped in a bathroom. He was pronounced dead when the EMTs arrived. Based on the account of the police report, it states,
Kirsten stated that at approximately 12:30 a.m., he received a telephone from Mrs. Vicky Cornell, the wife of the decedent, stating that she wanted Mr. Kirsten to go to the decedent's room because he sounded incoherent earlier and that he was now not answering his phone or returning calls. Mr. Kirsten stated that he went to check on Mr. Cornell, but could not gain entry with his extra key because the interior latch had been employed. Mr. Kirsten called hotel security to assist with entry, and they refused. Mr. Kirsten stated that Mrs. Cornell was frantic and employed him to kick in the door and enter the hotel room. Mr. Kirsten complied. Upon gaining entry, he found the bedroom door locked, also notified security and requested assistance, to which they refused. Mr. Kirsten stated that he told them to send security and EMS because he was going to trash the room. Mr. Kirsten stated that he kicked the bedroom door 6 to 7 times before the lock disengaged and the door opened. He stated that he entered the room and observed the bathroom door slightly open.
this is what I find interesting. Firstly, right before this statement, he said that after kicking in the second door, he went inside Chris's room and saw that the bathroom door was partially open, where he could see his feet. He went from seeing the door partially opened with the peak of Chris's feet straight to seeing the bands around his neck whilst on the floor. Before we go on to finish the rest of this particular statement, let's go back to the door details.
I came to the room and was unable to get in because of the interior latch. I went back to my room and called for hotel security to come and open the door. They refused, saying it wasn't my room, although I told them that he was my employer and that I had a key.
What did you do next?
I told Vicky that they wouldn't come open the door, and she told me to kick it open. I did. Upon entry, I found the bedroom door locked. I called the hotel operator and told her that I needed security to open the bedroom door. They refused again, and I told them that I'm going to damage the hotel room and that they need to send security, call 911, and call an ambulance.
What happened next?
I kicked the bedroom door 6 to 7 times before somehow it popped open. I went inside and the bathroom door was partially opened and I could see his feet.
So are you telling me, despite the sense of urgency that Martin Kirsten shared with the front desk, that the receptionist didn't feel compelled to at least send some sort of personnel, meanwhile calling 911? I also find it curious that there were no discoverable details in regards to any statements or any interviews given by the hotel reception staff or the security of that matter. And in regards to the hotel door that Martin Kirsten kicked down, let's hear what he had to say one more time.
I kicked the bedroom door 6 to 7 times before somehow it popped open.
These are some of the only known photos from the crime scene of the door that Martin Kirsten kicked in. As you'll see in front of you, this is the door latch that was allegedly kicked in, and you can see it on the floor there. But then as you look at the other images of the door, you can see that it's from far away, and the close-up of the door lock seems to be undamaged and intact. For perspective, here are some other examples of kicked-in doors that appear to be commercial grade. Apparently, this is a picture of the hotel door the night of the crime scene investigation.
I kicked the bedroom door 6 to 7 times before somehow it popped open.
And yet, not a mark or a blemish. The Daily Mail actually showcased the hotel door one day after Chris Cornell's death. In a secondary photo showcased in the article, notice the bottom caption: "The frame and door panel have been hastily repaired after they were damaged by Cornell's bodyguard Martin Kirsten, who kicked his way in to go to the Soundgarden singer's aid." But in their same breath, Daily Mail also showcases this photo of the room number. In the caption it reads, "The room remains sealed off and has been listed by the staff at the MGM Grand as unavailable for booking." A few points here. Chris Cornell died May 18, 2017. He was pronounced dead at approximately 1:30 a.m. Daily Mail published this article within the realm of 24 hours after his death. The mention of the door being hastily repaired would insinuate that a complete crime investigation was rendered. So now the questions arise. What damages exactly did they repair? Clocking back to the crime scene photo of the other side of the door, from what we can observe, the damage is minimal. Even as we evaluate the frame and the door panel mentioned in the Daily Mail caption, there doesn't seem to be any observable damage, at least enough for the necessity of repair. The only element that seems to have observational damage is the door latch, which was broken off. Next question. Why would the doors necessitate said repairs if MGM admitted that the room would be unavailable for booking? What would the hasty repairs be for if there would be no use for this room? And finally, what's with the door numbers? I mean, right? This was astonishing for me to go through as I was doing the research for this video. Especially what hit me, I think the hardest, was Taylor Momsen's account of her hanging out with Chris Cornell and the rest of Soundgarden afterward. And the thing that I have most questions about is how long that was. Now, she does state that it was brief, but I think even that little piece should have been considered in the investigation in determining the timeline and the logistics of it all. I mean, guys, let me know what you think. What was the most, surprising piece of information that you learned through this? Because as I went through, I was just flabbergasted that this was all out there for us to ingest. And, it just took a composition of, putting these timelines together. So anyway, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know, did you know all of this about the timelines and the things that happened before, he went up to his hotel room? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please, 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 please be sure to share it. Share it in your groups. Share it in your chats. I mean, this is important information to get out, especially if you are a rock fan, if you are a music fan. The truth has weight. And so with that, I thank you all for your support. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will catch you guys in the next one.